So here's a question for you all. Do you think if you were 24 years of age, working for one of the best software companies in the world, staying in Bangalore, the city of dreams, the city of beautiful weather, and making what 58 lakhs a year, do you think in this life situation you could still be unhappy? You could still feel disenfranchised and lonely with your life? Well, it turns out you can. For those of you who are not understanding, what I'm talking about is this viral post that has been shared quite a lot of times now on social media over the last few days. This guy who's penned down his innermost feelings on Grapevine, and he has shared it along, and it's now become a social media sensation. Let's talk about that first, and then we'll go into much more detail as to what and how we can think about the situation. So the note reads, feeling saturated in life. I am a 24-year-old software engineer in a FANG company with 2.9 years of experience living in Bangalore. FANG are the topmost software companies of the world. I make a good living, 58 LPA before taxes, and have a somewhat relaxed work life. However, I'm always overwhelmed and lonely in my life. I do not have a girlfriend to spend time with, and all of my other buddies are preoccupied with their lives. Even my work life is monotonous because I've been with the same company from the beginning of my career and do the same things every day, similar things every day. And I no longer look forward to fresh challenges and growth opportunities at work. Please advise on what I should do to make my life more interesting. Do not say go to the gym because already do. So this guy also has a good sense of humor, right? Well, so this tweet, this note shared by this young 24-year-old guy has actually gotten viral on social media over the past few days. And the first time I read it, of course, I felt sad for the guy, but I also felt very connected to him because I have been through a similar situation. Let's not say the same situation, but a similar situation. So I could feel what he was going through. Now, to everyone who's thinking along the lines of this is almost a non-problem or this is not that big a problem, the guy is making 58 lakhs a year, shut up and get on with life, things of that sort. I do not think that is the best capacity to think this situation in, because even if you imagine that if you were 24 and making so much money, you would not be so unhappy, this guy is. He could not have been more honest about it. He could not have been more vulnerable about it. So even if you think you would have been happy in that situation, show some respect for the guy who's telling you that he is not, right? And secondly, you do not know if you will really be happy in that situation. You just do not. You think you would be, but you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you would be feeling at that point, right? So the way I wanted to talk about this was, so if this guy would have come over to me and asked me for advice, of course, I would have asked him a lot more questions and we would have gone into a lot more depth of what his life situation is all about. But since that is not available to us right now, I would say that I would want to categorize the advice that I would want to give along this situation into three broad categories. I would want to talk about a few don'ts that I would advise him, some things that he should definitely not do, a few do's, some things that he should definitely do, and the middle ground, some things that he may be well off doing, but if his life situation does not permit, so be it. And I also think that this general framework would apply to a lot of other people too, because the situation that this guy is describing, I'm absolutely certain that a lot of other people are also going through this particular situation, but they're just not talking about it. Or the numbers could be different for different people. So someone could be 20 and feeling the same, could be 80 and feeling the same, or 40 feeling the same. But this is a life situation that is, I think it is quite common in the modern lifestyle, and therefore it needs to be addressed in a general manner, to the extent possible, of course. So without further ado, let's get into the don'ts. The number one don't that I would advise you would be to stay away from those recreational drugs, including alcohol, smoking, vaping, marijuana, and all of that other jazz. Anything that you think will provide you a temporary escape from your problems is only going to provide that, a temporary escape. And believe me when I say this, in the long term, it will only add to the problems that you have to still solve. So be more aware, be more smart about it, and do not fall prey to these recreational drugs. The second don't that I would suggest to you is to not become a workaholic. Yes, that's actually something that we need to understand, especially in the modern day hustle culture, because people almost consider workaholism to be a virtue. And it is definitely not a virtue. No ifs, no buts. If you are someone who's so occupied with his work that you cannot see anything else in your life, or you tend to ignore the other responsibilities that you have, that is exactly what is happening. You're ignoring your responsibilities under the disguise of having a lot of work. And believe me when I say this, people who tend to identify as workaholics actually create problems in their workplace so that they can solve them, so that they can actually move away from taking responsibility for their actual responsibilities. So this will end up doing the same thing as the recreational drugs. It will only keep you busy in other problems while your core problems still remain unsolved. So do not become a workaholic. Don't number 3 for you would be to not take a major decision in your life now that does not move you. Or rather, I should say it this way, do not take a major decision in your life right now just because others are doing the same. And I'm saying this from experience that you are at a stage in your life where a lot of different people are facing kind of similar issues in their life, and everyone tries to solve these issues in their own manners. Some pursue higher studies, some go for just changing their jobs, some people quit jobs altogether and start their own work, etc. Do not do any of these things if they are not what resonates with you. God knows if you're a software engineer in India in this day and age, and if you were also from a middle class family, you've already done things that were not your own path. But I relate to it, but still, now is the time that you've actually earned the financial freedom to not take somebody else's path. So my third don't for you would be to not take a path that is not your own right now. And one easy way, in fact, a little philosophical way to judge it, is if the path in front of you is absolutely clear, it's mostly someone else's path. And my fourth and final don't for you is one of the most important ones. Do not fall victim to the easy narratives that everything that is wrong in your life is someone else's fault. Someone else or the external situation or life in general is to blame for everything that is wrong in your life. These easy narratives are, as I say, easy to accept, easy to even understand and apply in your own lives, but they are incomplete narratives that will only make you bitter towards life in general or specific sections of humans in general. For example, they might make you bitter towards girls in general, and that is not going to help you in any way in your situation. So I think this is a very important thing to understand. You should, rather than finding who is to blame for your life situation, take up the responsibility that your life situation and fixing it is your own responsibility. And even if that involves taking major decisions, you have to do that rather than fall prey to the easy narrative that it is someone else's fault. Okay, let's talk about some do's now. Now, the first and foremost thing that you must do is something that is talked about in this note too, going to the gym. Or rather, I would say focus on your health. So gymming is, or exercising is definitely one bit of it, but eating well, sleeping well, exercising, and having a good balanced life, that is definitely needed. Because if you think about it, if you are able to tick all of these basic check boxes, only then can you look forward to actually fixing other things, because these are the pillars of your life: sleeping, exercising, and eating well. So if you're ticking all of these boxes, good enough. If you're not, these are definitely some things to check off before you actually look forward to solving other issues. Now, the second and the only other do that I have in this list is to pick up a hobby, or rather I should say pick up something that moves you. Now, it could be something as simple as reading a book that you always wanted to read, or taking a course that you always wanted to do but you didn't have the time or you were so busy, etc. But definitely something that, even if you do not find it to have direct utility right away, do it anyway. Do it despite of that. Just do it because you want to do it. Just do it because it moves you. Other people do not need to understand it, right? And this is important because I'm pretty sure as a kid or as a young man, you would definitely have had things that you wanted to do but could not. There could be plenty of reasons for it. And it could be that in your situation right now, you're not able to remember what those things are. So one easy way to actually go about it is to take a quiet little space somewhere in a park or maybe in your own home too. Just pick a book, pick a journal and a pen, and try to pen things down, try to write things down as to what moves you, what you want to do, what you may want to do, and start acting on it. You definitely look like someone who has a relaxed work life. That is what you write in your note. So definitely this is a time to do things that may not look like directly useful to you as such, may not produce money for you, but maybe they are things that move you, and therefore this is the right time to start picking on those habits, on those hobbies. And now on to the middle ground. The first advice in the middle ground would be simply changing what you do. Now this could mean changing your current job, it could mean changing your career altogether, but for both of these things, just try and apply some level of discernment at your own level, that you're not going for a temporary fix again. Because these things are definitely temporary fixes, but again, you have to understand that if you are in a toxic environment, if let's say the manager is a complete load of crap or whatnot, your colleagues aren't good, or the work culture is such and such that you can't focus, you're always stressed out, etc., you have to move out of such a culture. You have to do that. So even if that is a temporary fix, it is needed at times. So, and yes, secondly, it could also mean that even if you move into a different career path altogether, maybe it opens up an opportunity for you that you cannot see in the current saddle that you're on right now. So maybe changing what you're doing is also something that you could look at. Advice number 2 in the middle ground would be to look for a mate, to look for a partner. I know this is something that would have come across your way in a lot of different forms already. And in fact, you mentioned that you do not have a girlfriend to spend time with. So I think not just to remove the loneliness or to find happiness, but rather approach it with the perspective of spending time with someone, or being able to share your joys and your sadness and your happiness with that person. So yes, having a partner, having a mate is definitely one of those things that every human being desires at certain stages of their life, and therefore it's a good checkbox to take off too. Yes, so I've placed it in the middle ground because there are some life situations where you may not want to go for it, so that's also okay, but if you can, you must. Well, now that I'm done with all the don'ts and the do's and the middle grounds, I would also want to talk about a few more objective truths about life that I think apply to this situation, and I think would be also useful in this situation. Let's see. First thing that I want to talk about is that we are, in this day and age, too hooked up on happiness. We read up books about how to be happy. We want to watch podcasts and videos about how to be happy, which is good. It's an innate desire. But I think it's also kind of crooked to think that you can always be happy. See, life goes up and down in the form of sine waves for everyone, and no one can always be happy. I think a rather more mature goal to have in your life could be to be more equanimous with these stages of life. And that sounds a lot more stoic, but irrespective of putting labels to it, all I want to say is that everyone has ups and downs. Even Virat Kohli had a massive slump in his form for so many years now, right? That happened with Sachin, happens with everyone, right? So if you are too hooked up on being happy all the time, I think when you are down, when you are low, you'll be more miserable. So, and you may not even have a map on how to navigate through life in those moments. So do not be too hooked up on always trying to be happy. There are low phases for everyone. I think this is where you want to practice maturity, you want to practice patience, you want to practice being more equanimous. And I think that is a more mature way of going about it. And then the second thing I want to talk about is something that I think very few people actually understand, but it's very important to understand, that self-acceptance is the key to happiness. What I mean is, I have never seen a person who's happy who does not like themselves, right? You have to accept yourself the way you are. Now, this is quite tricky because for a lot of us, we have a lot of flaws. Everyone has a lot of flaws. That is true. That comes with this package of being a human being. But what happens is, because we like to have cause and effect associated with everything in our lives, we tend to put the blame on a lot of external factors for what is happening with us. So let's say you are someone who does not feel too worthy in life, You may want to put the blame on your parents for not bringing you up properly. You may want to put the blame on your friends for not treating you properly, or your teachers for not treating you or teaching you all the things they could have taught you, etc. And what happens is this can form a vicious loop, in the sense that you do not feel good, you do not feel worthy, you do not have a lot of self-worth within you. You tend to not exude confidence in your relationships with others. Others do not accept you. In fact, you repel a lot of other people. They directly feed into this loop of you already feeling low in self-worth. And this is a vicious loop now. And this can also reinforce again that it is happening again because of my parents and my teachers and my friends, that people are not accepting me, people do not love me. So I think the only way to actually break through this loop is via your own choices, via understanding and accepting all parts of yourself, bringing all of them into your conscious attention, and understanding that the only way to actually change the situation is your own choices. So other people could be to blame for a lot of different things that are going on in your life, but only you are responsible to fixing it. And once you understand that, once you accept all of your flaws as your own, not always building on the story of someone else to blame for it, but just accepting all of those different parts of you as your own self, bringing all of it into your conscious attention, bringing your desire to change, your desire to be better also into your conscious attention, you actually get to be better. You actually get to practice the realest form of self-love there is. Self-love is again something which is mostly a modern day concept, and it's riddled with all these mushy niceties of treating yourself to ice creams at night or taking days off from work, etc. All of which are needed, by the way. But that is not the only self-love. Real self-love is actually accepting all those different flaws that you have, all those different aspects of your personality, bringing all of them into your conscious attention, and then also bringing this part that wants to be better into your conscious attention. And that is where the magic happens. So I think in closing, I would want to say that self-acceptance is the key to being happy in that sense. And I think now I feel personally that I've covered everything that I wanted to in this video. If this reaches the person who actually penned this note, I would love nothing more than that. You are someone who was vulnerable enough to pen down your innermost feelings on the internet and ask for advice. And this is advice reaching you. So if it reached you, it would make me really happy. Just leave me a comment or even send me a note. I would want to connect one-on-one with you. And to everyone else, if you found any value in what I talked about in this video, please consider sharing it with your community, with your people, with your colleagues, because I think this can impact many more lives. And I think that's pretty much it. If you're not a subscriber of the channel so far, please consider subscribing so that we can connect more closely. And I'll see you in the playground the next time. Until next time, peace out.